بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وأفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما. اللهم لا سهل إلا ما جعلته سهلا وأنت تجعل الحزن إذا شئت سهلا. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. We welcome you all to another gathering of the Black Imams Roundtable. That weekly gathering where we discuss important and relevant issues that pertain to our daily life and our daily experience, and to provide guidance and solutions and hope in our path to understand, implement, and internalize the Deen of Al-Islam. I am one of the three Black Imams who are your hosts in these gatherings. Imam Amin Muhammad, and to join us soon is Imam Naeem Abdullah and Imam Faheem Lee. But since we're waiting for them, let us do some quick housekeeping. I remind you all of the agreement and commitment that we've made to support this platform, to generously donate a minimum of $10 per person to help us reach our minimum objective every day, every week of $500, which is used to facilitate spreading the message and reaching our communities throughout the country, and to continue our work in a da'wah, because a da'wah, as one of my teachers said, it is in need of support. You can have all the good intentions you want, and you should have good intentions, but you also need an aspect of support for those intentions so that those intentions will be realized. So if everyone now took a moment to click on the various links to support the platform, we would finish with our numbers that we have already, and with the generous people we have already listening, we will complete our weekly objective, and we could go on without having to interrupt the important information with talking about something we already know about. which means that in my Imam Faheem's voice, drop that bread. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. So we're continuing in our series of talks on where the rubber meets the road, which we can say that is a practical application of everything we're learning. And we highlighted 3 areas that are the 3 areas that are indicated in the code of 3453. The 3 refers to al-Iman, which is a reference to al-Aqidah, al-Islam, which is a reference to al-Fiqh, and al-Ihsan, which is a reference to at-Tasawwuf. So we're in the section of al-Fiqh. But I want to say something while I'm at it. Before we get into that, as I wait for my fellow Imams. Everything we're talking about on this platform is so that we establish in our communities classical, traditional, global, and historic practices, convictions, and spiritual states that has been maintained in this nation of Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam from the time he received revelation to our day. And we don't apologize for that. We intentionally are spreading a knowledge that insha'Allah ta'ala would be a source of uplifting our community. So when we talk about these sciences and the way we talk about them, we want it to be something that's passed on generationally within our community. And unfortunately, there are always elements that oppose us in empowering our communities to higher levels. And I want to say this, we're trying to show us the bar of Islamic knowledge and understanding. Here's the bar at this level. Even if we are beneath that bar at various levels, the bar still exists. And we don't want to bring the bar down because we can't reach it. Rather, we want to struggle and strive diligently to raise ourselves to the level of the bar. The only way to do that is to realize that there is a level that we need to strive to reach, and then to show us how to reach that level. And in the face of so much misguidance that is around us, we cannot afford to take our foot off the gas in the name of unity. Unity is good. Unity is desired. But unity must be based on the truth, not just for the mere sake of unity if it entails contradicting the truth. So we're laying out a map by which you can identify the truth. And I know from my experience, this is one of the few platforms that is unapologetically Sunni in our communities. I repeat that, unapologetically Sunni. And when we say Sunni, we mean following the methodology of previous generations of scholars in this nation with an unbroken chain back to the great ulama who inherited from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We are in Aqidah following the method of the Asharis and the Maturidis. We are in Fiqh following the methodology of the Hanafis, Malikis, Shafi'is, Hanbalis, and we follow the way of at-tasawwuf, which is in accordance with the methodology of the great Imam Junaid al-Baghdadi. This is our way. This is what we call to. And we don't deviate from that. Especially in a time where falsehood is dressed in the clothing of truth. So for good measure, I'll strike. You have many people who claim that they learned in institutions that promote this methodology, but they themselves don't stand for the methodology themselves. Rather, they have the methodology mixed with other than the methodology and presenting it to the people. And we stand firmly on the side of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah to explain that such deviations are not valid or acceptable. So here, if you're looking for apologetic imams about the truth, you've come to the wrong place. We don't believe in a Rodney King Islam. We believe in Sunni Islam, Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah. So please keep this in mind, because it's extremely important. When you listen to us, you should understand where we're coming from and where we're trying to go. I would hope that these lessons that we teach on our individual platforms and on the roundtable last in our communities and are expounded upon, detailed until the day of judgment. Inshallah. The video is not clear. Is the video not clear for everyone or for some people? Is the voice and picture clear for everyone? Okay, mashallah. So with that, I remind you, do your part, make it happen. Maybe you're not a teacher, but you can be a great contributor. Let's make it happen. I pass the mic to Imam Naeem Abdullah.
Next up, I believe that's me. Imam Naeem, get on the mic for the symphony. Allahu Akbar. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa afdalu salatu wa tamu taslim ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een. Wa radiyallahu ta'ala an sadat al-tabi'een wa ulama al-amalin wa a'immatul arba'at al-mujtahideen wa muqallidihim ila yawm al-din. Amma ba'd. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, everyone. Alhamdulillah. I pray that everyone is good, and I pray that everyone followed instructions. Follow instructions. It's part of what I'm going to open up with. But when Imam Amin was speaking, it made me think of something that I didn't plan on saying, but I think it needs to be said because it goes along with what he mentioned already, and I think it will help clarify what people are witnessing. Question to you all: have you all been in a relationship, marriage, friendship, work relationship, school relationship, and maybe in the beginning you didn't establish any boundaries? Not soft or nothing. You just, you didn't establish any boundaries. And you had friendships, but you felt like personal boundaries were being crossed. And then you clarified those boundaries. Listen, we cool and all that, but I don't appreciate when you do X, Y, and Z. Other people may like that, but that offends me. So I appreciate it if you don't do that anymore. Have you all had something similar happen to you? That's a question. I really want to know, because it's going to help clarify a lot of what you're seeing. Have you ever had to establish boundaries with someone? Now, my follow-up question to that is, when you establish those boundaries or reestablish them, did you make more friends or less friends? Or did some of those people who you thought were friends become enemies or distance themselves from you? See, we all have been there. So less. See, you understand, Mu'mina. Yeah, less. Less, they rolled out. People want to interact with you on a personal level, how they want to interact with you, without respecting the boundaries you establish. Bilal is the exception. He said he got more friends. That's good. We have some good people. You may not realize it. You may not realize it, but this is what you're witnessing right now. This is what you're witnessing right now. As long as you don't have any Islamic boundaries, as long as you go for what I like to call the trans-Islamic movement, long as you identify as a Muslim, everybody has to respect that label, and you cannot even challenge it, or you'll be canceled. This is what we're witnessing. The same stuff we see going on outside of the Muslim community is being imposed in the Islamic community, just with a little bit of Arabic here and there, and under the pretense of Islam. Assalamu alaikum, Imam of the Boombap.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Allahu Akbar. So, as long as it's what Imam Amin calls Rodney King, Kumbaya, right? What we're saying is, listen, all that what you're doing, that's you, but we're Ahlul Sunnah, and Ahlul Sunnah has traditionally been defined as X, Y, and Z, as Imam Amin just explained. And because of that, some people are like, alhamdulillah, finally somebody's saying what we all know. Those were the exceptions that some of you mentioned, like you actually gained friends. Some of you said, some of you, that's the equivalent over here. Some people are like, alhamdulillah, I knew it, man, but ain't nobody saying it like y'all saying it, right? That's the parable to some of those friends that you actually gained when you establish personal boundaries. But at the same time, many of you also express that people who you thought were actually friends, they refused. I mean, they chose not to deal with you anymore based upon the boundaries you established. This is what we are experiencing now. people do not want to respect the 1,000-plus-year-old boundaries that have been established by the scholars of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah. And because we are blowing the dust off of those boundaries and those lines in the sand that has always been there, some people don't like it. So what you're witnessing is the communal manifestation of that. Oh, you acted just like you establish boundaries in your personal life. The person who doesn't want to respect that boundaries, they start accusing you of stuff. Oh, you think you better than us? Oh, oh, you acting all funny now. You wasn't always acting like that. This is the same thing going on, but it's not personal, one-on-one. So when Imam Amin said that, that's what it reminded me of. All or most of my comments tonight are going to be with the intention of giving some clear, practical instructions. I'm not going to tell the whole story in detail, but no stories from the cell block. Imam, I mean, you got to make the sound effect.
Get in that cell.
When
Count up.
Right before I took Shahada, I expressed some interest in becoming Muslim to some friends that I knew from the street. Now, I didn't come into Islam like some of you. Some of you did research and you studied, you compared, none of that. So to me, Sunni Muslim, Ansar, Nation of Islam, 5%, it was all the same thing before I took Shahada.
Could you please take Ansar out of the equation? I'm offended. My sensitivities have been touched. Why you have to be triggering, please?
Have to mention the Ansar. They had the most impact on me. So when I expressed that I wanted to become Muslim, one of my friends that I knew from the street, who was a 5%er, came to me and said, I can help you out with that. And he said, first, you have to understand the supreme mathematics. I'm like, all right, hold on, let me get a pen, right? Knowledge, wisdom, understanding, culture freedom, power refinement. I'm writing all these things down. A Muslim brother who I had never seen in the tear before overheard what was going on and politely injected himself in the conversation. And he asked me, was I Muslim? I said, yeah. And he said, Assalamu alaikum. I was like, yeah, peace. I didn't know how to say wa alaikum salam. And then he asked me, he looked like funny, like, okay, you telling me peace, I'm telling you assalamu alaikum. He said, do you make salat? I never heard that word before. I said, make some what? He said, do you make salat? I said, make some what? He said, do you pray? I said, yeah, I pray. I guess at that point, he recognized that I wasn't no Muslim. And he said some things in Arabic. And I don't know what it was he said in Arabic. I'm just assuming he said Al-Fatiha. And he said, when we pray, this is what we say. And then he gave me some clear instructions. He said, listen, the Muslims here, they're kind of weak here. When you leave here, you're going to go to Rikers Island. I was in Queens House at the time. You're going to go to Rikers Island. And most likely you go to C-73, and there's a strong Muslim community there. You know, when you go there, get with the brothers there. They'll straighten you out. I was like, cool, all right, thanks, man. And I mentioned that story because that's exactly what happened to me. I got transferred to Rikers Island. I went to the C-73, and that's what I did. I got with the brothers there, and that's where I took my Shahada. I say all of that to say, because a lot of times we talk and sometimes people just need someone to lay out some clear steps, some clear instructions on how to move forward. So my intention this evening for everything that I'm going to say is I'm just going to mention some steps. And the first step is awakening to the truth. It's not really a step you make. It happens. Allah removes the veil. Maybe you're a new Muslim and you're hearing me. Or maybe you used to be a Wahhabi, like Imam Faheem. Imam Faheem was a hardcore Wahhabi. Alhamdulillah. I'm glad I ain't know him there. Maybe you was a default Wahhabi, like me. A Wahhabi not even knowing it. Maybe you was Ansar, like Imam Amin. Or maybe you a Shi'i. You a Shiite. Wherever you come from. At some point, Allah removes the veils and lets you know that something's not right, and you become aware. You awake. You awaken. Once you reach that level, I'm giving you some instructions. Now we move into step number 2. Step number 1, maybe just Allah opened your heart, whatever. It's not something that you may actively do. Or maybe you might actively do it. Maybe, you do some serious research, some reading, you listen and everything. And then, you recognize, hey, it's not Ahlul Sunnah. This is not normative Islam. This is not Orthodox Islam, the way they used to say back in the day, right? So you become aware. How have you become aware? Step number 2 that I'm giving you. I'm not going to mention all of these steps right now. I'm just going to mention a couple, then I'm going to pass the microphone, and then when I get it back, I'll continue. Step number 2, identify a teacher from Ahlul Sunnah. Meaning, and Imam Amin touched on this in the last few afternoons. You have to, as he said today, فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلَ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. Ask the people of the reminder if you do not know. Notice Allah, and a lot of times because we're trying to emphasize the point that you have to ask someone, and you can't talk to a book, right? So a lot of times we quote this verse and we emphasize in the fact that you have to ask someone. At this moment, I'm emphasizing on who you ask. Allah says, Ahlul Dhikr, the people of the reminder. And the scholars, like Sheikh Uthman Denfodio, said, he summarizes by saying that they are the people who have 2 characteristics within themselves simultaneously. They not only have knowledge, but they have taqwa. They don't only have taqwa with no knowledge, or they don't only have knowledge with no taqwa. They have knowledge and taqwa at the same time. And that's extremely important. Because if you ask someone who has knowledge, but they don't have taqwa, they can use their knowledge to manipulate you into something that is not pleasing to Allah. And there's a lot of that going on. People are using their knowledge not from a position of taqwa, but from a position of manipulation. As one of my old heads taught me back in New York, one-eyed man is king in the land of the blind. That was my first time hearing that saying in the mid-1990s. The one-eyed man is a king in the land of the blind. So if someone may not even really have knowledge, but he got more than you, he can manipulate you. There's a lot of that going on. In fact, sometimes it breaks my heart. I see some of you, some guys I know, they in that category of, you got to watch them jokers, right? And I know you got to watch them jokers. But I know most of you, a lot of you, you do things based on emotion. So you learn from that teacher. That teacher's right. He says what he means what he says. He's a straight up person. Then you learn from this joker too. I'm like, subhanAllah, how you learn from both of them? He's like, they on the same thing. No, they're not. One is Ahlul Sunnah and one is Wahhabi in the dress of Ahlul Sunnah. He talks Ahlul Sunnah lingo. He may even quote from Ahlul Sunnah books, but he's like the Trojan horse. He's bringing in Wahhabi ideology under the pretense of teaching from Ahlul Sunnah authors and Ahlul Sunnah books. But you don't even have a baseline level of knowledge where you can even detect it. So ask the people of the reminder if you do not know. Ask the people of the reminder, not just knowledge and taqwa, meaning he stays away from the prohibited things and he does the obligations. He's not an open facet. And you actually know that whatever the thing is you're about to ask him, he is qualified to give you an answer. To be more specific, as Imam Amin already mentioned, in Creed, he is Ashari or Maturidi, or has a creed that is consistent with that. In the outward practice or fiqh, he is Hanafi, Maliki, Shafi, or Hanbali. And he's a person of tasawwuf, whether he has a tariqah or not, a spiritual path or not. Someone, dancing in the gray areas, right? You want to avoid all of that. So step number 2 that I mentioned, because a lot of you are in this category. A lot of you, for the last 4 or 5 years, a lot of you say, yeah, I know you got to have a method, right? Okay, so what's your method? Haven't chosen one yet. It's been 4 or 5 years. When are you going to figure it out? Well, I don't know which one to choose. Well, what teachers do you have access to? Well, I learned from him. Well, that's your method. A lot of times we want to choose, like we grocery shopping. We don't know if we should get, see the watermelon, they got seeded, unseeded, the rind, the webbing on it. It's funny, a lot of y'all are good at determine which watermelon is going to taste good. And this is what you're doing with the meth habs. You're looking at how dark the green spots is. You're looking at, see what kind of spots it got on it. And you've been doing this for 5 years. And you still in the supermarket ain't chosen watermelon yet. The person on the loudspeaker is like, good evening, customers. It's 9:55. We are closing at 10 o'clock. Please take your items to the register, right? The angel of death, you don't know where you're going to die, right? You know you got to get your dean right, and you still trying to figure out what method I'm about to be. And you don't know the angel of death could be hovering right over you right now, right? So if you're learning from Imam, I mean, man, that's your teacher. You're Ashari and you Shafi. Stop playing. So, in other words, a lot of you are like, you know it here, but you haven't done anything about it yet. You're not active. And that's a lot of us. We understand what's right, but we do very little to move towards it. So I'll leave it off right there. So step number 1, you become awakened to the reality of the situation. That was step number 1. Step number 2, you identify a teacher and you learn from him. You learn from him. You just don't stay and just be a spectator and watch from the peripheral. And every now and then engage in the class. No, you seriously learn. And I'm going to mention some other things about that because there's certain things that Allah is going to question us about. A lot of us have not been taught or what's the word? Orientated. We haven't gone through Islamic orientation, but in Islam, there's a baseline level of knowledge that every individual is required to know. And it has nothing to do with being a scholar. It has everything to do with being a regular Muslim. That's another thing, those guys that you gotta watch them jokers, that crew, the one-eyed man, right? You gotta watch out for them cats. Because one of their characteristics is that they'll take basic stuff and tell you it's advanced stuff and you don't need to learn it. Because they want to keep being the king. They got the one eye and you blind. And they want to make sure you stay blind.
Imam, could you repeat that again 2 more times for the sunnah? That's a very important point you made.
A lot of these guys in the category, the ones I say you got to watch these jokers, they take basic stuff that every Muslim is required to know and tell you, no, these things are advanced things, and you don't need to know all of that. Once again, said 3 times for the sunnah. Those guys in the you got to watch these jokers category, they take basic things that every Muslim is required to know and tell you that, no, these things aren't basic, they're advanced, and you don't even need to know them. So that's 3 times. And I have a few more steps here, but I left off on step number 2, alhamdulillah. And it's time for me to make salat. So I pass the Imam Faheem, inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Bismillah wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulihi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een. Wa min tabi'ahum bi ihsani ila yawm ad-din wa ba'd. Alhamdulillah, I welcome you all to tonight's broadcast, the Black Imams Roundtable. I'm a little late for the show, but, you know, as the contract goes, if all 3 of us ain't present, you know, we don't get paid. So I was forced to show up. Mashallah, it's good to see you all here tonight. Mashallah. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to honor all of you, to bless you, and to make your du'as manifest. I mean, so I missed the beginning part of what was discussed. And so I'll just chime in where I think is, you know, with respect to the topic that we're discussing. And it's kind of timely when we're talking about fiqh, where rubber meets the road, especially in the month of the Prophet Sallallahu the Maulid, this month of Barakah. You know, you've read many, you know, people who contest the Maulid, and, you know, they go from, you know, calling it shirk, you know, to saying it's haram, to it's just bid'ah unrestrictedly, you know. And this is one of the important things of really knowing fiqh and knowing the principles of fiqh, you know, to understand these things. And there was a brother who mentioned something recently, a teacher. He said, you know, one of the biggest problems that we're facing in these current times is the conflation of the sciences, the conflation of the sciences. And what he meant by it is that, you know, we're conflating the sciences where we're mistaking what's supposed to be fiqh for Aqidah, and what's supposed to be Aqidah, it should be fiqh, and like that, you know. And so, you know, with respect to the Maulid, you know, during this month of Rabi al-Awwal, you know, people who really oppose it, you know, they consider it like an Aqidah issue, you know. They consider that you're making partners with Allah, or you're over praising the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, or the main argument is that nobody from the Salaf ever celebrated, you know, the Prophet's birthday, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and many of the other arguments. But what they usually leave out is a complete definition of what bid'ah is. And, you know, so bid'ah is not just something that's a newly invented matter. Bid'ah is something that that could be a newly invented matter, but as long as it doesn't contravene an established principle in Islam, it doesn't go in against anything that's well known, then it's allowed to do, you know. And as the saying goes, it says that the asl of things, the foundation of things, is that they are permissible or they are allowed. And so, in other words, you know, for someone to say something is haram specifically, or not allowed, or not lawful, they are the ones who need a specific text. You know, they're the ones who need a specific text to say that it's haram specifically. You know, and I remember since you know, they tried to expose me for being a hardcore Wahhabi before, right? I'll just give you a story for the time I was there. I remember they used to teach the exact opposite. They used to say that everything was not permitted to do until you found a text that allowed you to do it. Yeah, they used to teach this in there. I don't know if this is fiqh classes or, and it was authority classes before they called themselves authorities, right? Meaning that they would select what they wanted to suit their, position. And so, and then learning later on that, they never had no training in fiqh and or the usul of fiqh, how things are derived, how things are understood, because everything doesn't have an explicit text that you follow. And, there are things that are extracted from the Quran and from the Sunnah. And then the other part is, what the companions understood and what is ijma, the third source of law. And so I read something that was very disturbing too, just another point, that there was a person who made a video about the hijab, and they were saying that, nowhere in the Quran does Allah mention the hijab for women. So it mentions, the woman putting the khimar over their bosoms and stuff like that, right? And then this person had the nerve to say that it began with women covering their head during the time of Umar ibn al-Khattab, radiallahu anh, and so he said that Umar ibn al-Khattab, radiallahu anh, that he copied it from the Jews and Christians, right? And so as I was watching this nonsense, right, this garbage, I was just thinking, like, does this person know who Umar was? Radiallahu anh, does he really know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, sent down revelation based on some of Umar's suggestions? So this ain't just somebody, even if that was the case, this ain't just Umar, some regular Umar. This is Umar ibn al-Khattab, and it's just really ridiculous. And somebody had the audacity to really get on there and try to justify, so there, people who do these things, they have such an agenda behind it, like, why would you get online and say that? So it's like, okay, it's just okay for women, Muslim women, to not cover their heads, but it just goes you how deep the depravity is of not being trained properly in the sciences, and not even knowing the differences between the sciences, and so, like, this stuff been giving me a headache all week, about all the stuff you be reading, especially about the Mawlid, and I've been really, restricting myself to not say, man, you just don't really love the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, because if you did, it wouldn't even be an issue, because extreme love for Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is not a bid'ah, it's not a newly invented matter, and observing the Mawlid is just a moderate way of showing that love that's supposed to be extreme. The Mawlid is just a moderate way of showing that extreme love for the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, which is not a bid'ah, which is not a newly invented matter, And so, people just don't get it. And as one sheikh said, you just can't teach love, you can't teach love. So, no sense of arguing with people who don't accept it, fine and well, but the other thing, just know some of the principles. And, and then the other part is some of the people that they reference, you would be like, okay, if this person is such a sheikh like this, and they're supposed to be a faqih, then there's no way they can say that it's haram, And so all of those issues, but it just goes back to the point where, really identifying these issues that we're discussing about, proper aqidah, proper fiqh, proper tasawwuf, and, and really trying to counter all of the things that we, that we're up against in these days and times. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for safety. So I want to know, what did I miss, Imam Amin?
You missed the chorus. Teach me.
Yeah, mashallah, mashallah. So,
not much.
Okay. Yeah. So, but this
we were just talking about in a way that what's happening in terms of us trying to establish the tradition of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah through the Islamic sciences, as opposed to those who are undermining it. And one of the things, so that's what you really miss. So we were really discussing that as, before we talk to the subject. But I think one of the things, are you finished?
Yep.
So if I wasn't, I am now, right? I think one of the things that we should keep in mind is that this deen has been preserved. The way to acquire it, its sources, its people, its methodology has all been preserved. And for us as a community, we have to really begin to take that seriously. And that's going to involve us to do some work, some research, some study, some investigation, so that we could have a firm understanding. It's not sufficient just to have sound bites. I was having a discussion today with a person, an influential person in my area, very influential. Caucasian man, lawyer. So we were talking about working together in the community. So I said to him that if we're going to talk and how we can cooperate, the first thing we have to do is cooperate and learn to understand one another and accept where we agree and where we disagree without mixing the two. And then learn to coexist despite our disagreements. This is non-Muslim. We're talking about how we're going to work together to serve the community. So that's going to be our limited source of unity. So it's coming to the Imam and the Muslims, and we're all going to work together. And I'm like, okay, we have to understand one another. I want to understand what you're trying to achieve. You need to understand what I'm trying to achieve. We're going to find the areas of agreement. We can cooperate in there. The areas of disagreement, we're going to discover them. We're going to be honest about them. And we're going to learn how to cooperate and coexist despite them. And he was saying, what do you mean by that? I said, what I mean by that is we're going to cross to issues. We're going to come across issues that we're not going to agree. And you have an objective, and I may have an objective. And sometimes they ain't the same. In order that we don't ruin our cooperation and things we have in common, when we come across those issues, we got to be completely honest with one another. And then work out from there. Let me give you an example. Why do I explicitly mention Ash'ari, Maturidi, and Aqidah, Hanafi, Shafi'i, Maliki, Hanbali, and Fiqh, Sufi? Because that's a methodology. That traditionally is known as Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah. That those groups which have specific methodologies in the various Islamic sciences. All of those things make up a Sunni. If one of them is missing, that is a defect in one's practice as a Sunni Muslim, one's understanding as a Sunni Muslim. It doesn't make you a disbeliever necessarily. It just means you're not following the traditional way of Sunni Islam. I want to pause. Does everybody here understand that point? I'll repeat it while you put yes or no. Please engage me here. When we're talking, we're explicit in Aqidah, and these are the primary sciences of Islam. We're either Ash'ari or Maturidi. In Fiqh, we are Hanafi, Maliki, Shafi'i, or Hanbali. And we follow the way of Tasawwuf. Sometimes that is represented in a tariqah, a spiritual path, sometimes not. But the acceptance of Tasawwuf as a science is part and parcel of Sunni Islam. And there are separate sciences. So in each science, you're going to fall under one of those methodologies. So you don't say I'm Hanafi, as Imam Faheem indicated, but then when I ask you what's your creed, you say I'm Hanafi. No, if you're a Hanafi, the majority of Hanafis are Maturidi. So if you learned properly, that's going to be understood. Hanafi, Maturidi. Maliki, Ash'ari. Shafi'i, Ash'ari. Hanbali, Ash'ari, or on the methodology of the Ash'aris and the Maturidis in terms of the aspect of a tafweed, leaving the meaning to Allah when you come to the attributes of Allah. But basically in everything, it's the same in the foundations of the creed. So one of the great scholars, he said, the Ash'ari al-Hanabila, that's how he described it. I love that. That was nice. He said, Ash'ariyatul Hanabila. The Hanabilas, who are really, for all intents and purposes, Ash'ari, except in a few details. As opposed to Wahhabiyatul Hanabila. There's a difference, a big difference in the two. Boy, they're really ready to start some trouble here tonight, right? So, for all of us, that should be understood. And when you understand that, when someone comes, for instance, and he has opposite of that, I'm Maliki but I'm not Ash'ari or Maturidi. I'm Maliki. I have Athari creed. When the vast majority is a Maliki, well, Ash'ari. So the first question, you're opposing that creed. What is your creed? Right? Forget the names. What do you believe? Since you oppose the majority of Malikis who are Ash'ari, you are something else. The real question becomes, what is that? What is that something else? Tell me what that looked like. Explain that to me. And what you will discover, it is a revamped version of the Wahhabi creed. Right? It is the name change because I have bad credit. Right? You caught me, I got bad credit. I'm known by this name. Let me go get a name change and see if I can redo this credit thing. By way of analogy. Or same thing, Shafi'i. The Shafi'is, vast majority of Shafi'is are Ash'ari. Well, I'm not Ash'ari. Well, what are you as a Shafi'i? And here's the catch. And likewise, Hanafi and the other schools. Those things need to be clear. It's not sufficient just to say, I don't want to discuss it. No, the scholars of Islam who conveyed the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam laid that out, discussed it, explained it, clarified it, wrote volumes about it, not just because they didn't have nothing else to do. It means it's of significance. So here we'll reach today where a person is Azhari claiming, I studied in Azhar, quoting Azhar, and if you learn the Azhari methodology, you will see this person doesn't have the Azhari methodology. So now when one hears Azhari, they don't even know what they're talking about these days because of the infiltration and the lack of clarity and explicitness. Because if you study the methodology of Azhar, which is Ash'ari and Maturidi, clearly explicit. But here you got today some people waving the flag of Azhar with a creed that Azhar doesn't accept. Did y'all follow that? You got people waving the flag of Al-Azhar, putting pictures of Azhari sheikhs, and contradicting the very foundational methodology of Azhar itself. As if to say Azhar and its students and its teachers are different. You do realize that Al-Azhar has an official position, right? Does everyone realize that? The official position of Azhar in Aqidah is Ash'ari and Maturidi. Well known. You will not find the Azhari scholarship promoting other than Ash'ari and Maturidi creed and Aqidah. The four schools of fiqh, Hanafi, Shafi, Maliki, Shafi, Hanbali, and the way of Tasawwuf. That's Azhar. Anything other than that, you're finding deviation in their methodology. I would like to know that we all understand that. Because Al-Azhar is over 1,000 years old, and it's been the pillar of Sunni traditional Islam for that time, up to this day, right? Do we realize that? Us. I want to make sure we're all on the same page. I know this ain't my own private sessions, but some of us, as Imam Naeem indicated, we act like we don't hear what was being said. So I want to make sure you understand. I want to make sure it's clear, right? So when somebody is posting all these Azhari pictures and then quoting and promoting creeds that Al-Azhar totally disagree with, that's a problem, right? That's a huge problem. That means that person is deliberately fabricating information to us because it's not like it ain't clear. This one's clear. So you just should say, let me go back to what I was talking about, that person, that lawyer I was talking to. Would that person just say, I did study in Azhar. I studied with sheikhs, but I don't agree with them. And this is my approach. That's distinctly different from acting like your approach is the approach of Azhar. Do y'all follow that? It's very fine. I'm taking an approach that is a blatant, fabricated lie and passing it off as if, I study with the scholars. But at least tell me truly what those scholars actually believe, other than what you conveying. And you can't change 1,000 years of history. It's documented, right? And that's in every science. Now, let me go one more. I'm sorry, I'm on the road, brothers, if y'all permit me. I'm really being nice. I really want to be explicit, but I notice a lot of us can't handle explicit speech, so you got to give indications with truth. But if y'all want me to stop, I'll slow down and pass the mic.
If you're from the hood, I know you feel me. Keep going.
I appreciate it because I was going to keep going anyway. I'm joking. But here's another thing. We make a dua. Oh Allah, show us truth as truth and allow us to follow it. And show us falsehood as falsehood and allow us to avoid it. Can we all put that up? Oh Allah, show us truth as truth and allow us to follow it. And show us falsehood as falsehood and allow us to avoid it. This is important. That's extremely important. I could deal with you if you wasn't lying to me. That's easy. We've been lied to enough. Can't you at least tell me the truth as you view it, even if it's different from what we see, and then let me choose, right? Why do we have it where you want people not have the opportunity to choose based on facts? We're Muslim, right? We're Muslim. If I want to remain in falsehood, any of us, we wouldn't have became Muslim. We became Muslim to learn the truth. So why, when we get into Islam, we don't want the truth? Don't tell me the truth. I want to share something with you quickly. I didn't put it, but I saved this photo because it was significant to me. It was a post that someone made, and I found it very strange. It's called Mixing Issues. All right, where is it at? I'm sorry.
And while we're waiting on that,
I got it.
y'all get to that bread.
But I want to show you this. Probably most of you seen this. This was a post placed by someone who, and you can't read it, but they're quoting a scholar who's an Azhari scholar. They put books to show you his books. And then they put a conversation that they had with this scholar. And as to say, the scholar agreed with them. I said, this is so deceitful, especially to the audience that you're promoting the audience. The audience you're sharing this with are vastly English-speaking people. The books that you're showing are in Arabic. The points you're making, the books that you're showing contradict the points. The books themselves were written to refute the points that you promote. The scholar that you're mentioning directly says the exact same points that we make on the Black Imams Roundtable. And I wrote a complete discussion on this. And we transcribed his own words that led to 35 pages of him refuting your ideas. And I'm saying to myself, so some of you would be deceived by false questioning. And I want to show you the traces of Wahhabi behavior. I mention this for a reason. The question that was asked to the Sheikh is people making takfir of Ibn Taymiyyah and Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab. So that's the guys, right? So think about this. That's the question that's asked. And then, so the response is to that question, not telling the Sheikh actually what's really going on. So the Sheikh answers your question that you loaded the dice. He had no idea what you were really saying. You load the dice. And the Sheikh explains from that. But here, if you listen to the Sheikh's response, and then take into context what we promote. Number one, we've been on for at least 5 years daily, roughly. I would like one person to name one individual that any of us called a kafir. One individual, you heard any of us explicitly say this person is a kafir. Just one person. That's claimed to be Sunni, of course. So that's a false point that's being made. And the first line, the Sheikh says, my advice is that you all agree on Al-Azhar and its scholars as a reference. Well, we agree with that. But the way the question is twisted is about a takfir, which none of us do. And then the Sheikh is saying a Muslim does not need all of this arguing about takfir, who's a believer, who's not a believer, but rather he should be taught what he needs in jurisprudence, that's fiqh, in creed, that's aqidah, and in purification, which is tasawwuf. And by the way, these are horrible translations, because if you hear the Arabic of this, it don't mean that at all. But that's another story, right? But here's my question. That's why you don't want to have a real discussion, because these things will be clarified quickly. What does the Muslim need to know in terms of fiqh? That means that at least, at minimum, he needs to know the Fard Ain according to one of the 4 schools. Is that not what we teach? What does he need to know in creed? He needs to know what is obligatory to attribute to Allah, what is permissible to attribute to Allah, what is impossible to attribute to Allah, and he follows one of those methodology of the Ash'aris and Maturidis. What does he need in tasawwuf? He needs to remove the blameworthy characteristics and adorn himself with the praiseworthy characteristics. Is that not what we teach? I want to show you the trace of Wahhabism. Do you know what the Wahhabi students and knowledge used to do to each other? When one wanted to get something across, he would go overseas, talk to the sheikh, without the other one present, state the position of the other one so the sheikh can consider him an innovator and kick him off the minhaj. That was like student of knowledge, Wahhabi 101. Imam Faheem, am I correct? Someone wants to get another one. This is the Wahhabis, so-called Salafi stuff they used to do. When one wants to get the other, he go overseas, he go see the sheikh, he tells the sheikh his narrative without the other one. The sheikh takes that narrative, considers the other one a deviant, and then they use that and come back to the students. They see what the sheikh said. Is that not the practice of that?
He ain't lying.
That's the same thing that was just done here, which is a trace from your Wahhabi days. You still doing it under the guise of Sunni.
We see you.
That is a trace of Wahhabi stuff. That's what you learned in Philly, hanging out with the Wahhabis. And now you're pretending to be Azhari doing the same thing. And the Azharis know better, and they won't correct you. And I have to ask why. The Azhari people, American graduates from Azhar, and the countless number of people who studied in Azhar who didn't graduate, who either studied in the Azhar Masjid, either studied in the university, or studied with scholars outside in their homes. There are a lot of Americans who studied the Azhari way. They know better. Why y'all not saying anything? And it's the easiest way. I don't get into that. But you have the obligation of enjoying what is right and forbidding what is wrong, especially when someone you know is perverting the way of Al-Azhar, which is the way of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah. I had to put that out there just so you can think about. Just something to think about. Just something to think about. And some of us, I see us, if I don't be explicit, you'll be fooled by that stuff. And as Imam Naim indicated, because this misquoting while you're changing, tell the whole story, not part of it. I'm Maliki. Okay, let's go read the basic Maliki books, like Ibn Ashir. He tells you the creed of Ash'ari, the madhab of Malik, and the spiritual way of Junaid. You're not talking like that. You're saying neo-Ash'aris, as if you are supporting the old Ash'aris. You don't support the neo or the old Ash'aris. You don't follow the Ash'aris. You actually think that y'all reached the level of intellectual excellence so you don't need to follow a madhab. You yourself make your own madhab called no madhab. May Allah help us. All right, I have my, this is important because that's reality on the ground. That's what's happening. So the person's never going to learn the proper methodology of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah if somebody don't tell the truth. If people can come and twist it and turn it and fabricate it, then how are we ever going to learn? How are we ever going to learn the truth? And ultimately, we're talking about generations of us in the future. May Allah make it easy. All right, I'll stop.
See, Imam Amin always be inspiring thoughts. Guess what? Got another story from the cell block.
Well, the way you drunk that tea, whatever that was, I knew it was coming.
Imam Amin said we're going to have some tea tonight, right? I had my tea.
I see. Oh, let me get mine together too then.
Allahu Akbar. You know, brothers and sisters, those of you who have never been incarcerated, and may Allah make it that you never be incarcerated, I mean, but you have this thing called solitary confinement. Goes by other nicknames. The box, the hole, the bing, a whole lot of other names for the situation. Usually happens when you get some infraction in the jail or the prison, and they send you to a designated area in the jail or the prison where you're literally locked in your cell for 23 hours of the day, and you may be able to come out a few times a week to go to another cell, which is a shower, or go outside for recreation, which is another cell outside, right? I mention this situation because in some places they have whole prisons where the whole prison is the box, the whole SHU, special housing unit, right? And I was in one of those places. And I'm just trying to make a picture for you so you can understand. Because a lot of times when we talk about things Islamically, we act like we don't know what's going on. So I'm giving you the equivalent that some of you may be able to relate to. So I was in one of those places. So you can imagine a whole tier of cells and you're not able to come out. So you don't really know what the people on the same tier look like. You may have your little mirror you stick out, or you see someone going to the shower or leaving a cell for whatever reason, and whatever, you know each other's voices. You don't, especially if y'all wasn't in the same prison together, right? So a lot of times when you get in environments like that, where there's not too much interaction, everybody's just in their cell and they break in the monotony of talking to each other. Yo, 5 cell, this 10 cell. Yo, you from Brooklyn? I saw you walk by, you look familiar. Right? And so sometimes people start talking like that. And so in these situations, what happens is a lot of times you let these dudes talk. Everybody was a big drug kingpin. Everybody. Nobody was a crackhead. Nobody was a purse snatcher. You know, nobody was a cash register thief. Everybody was the boss, the kingpin, the super thug, the murderer, the just whatever crime he claims, he's the top of it. Nobody did it better than him, right? And so a lot of times, you know, if you've been jailing for a while, or if you're a good judge of character, this is an opportunity to get a good laugh, right? So let's say, for instance, I'm locked up with somebody and he claims to be from Atlantic City. Imam Amin is on a tier, but he don't say nothing. He just listening as I'm getting this guy to talk. Oh, yo, so you from Atlantic City? Word? What you was doing out there? I know you was doing it big time when you was out there, right? Yeah. I had the whole thing on lock. I had Pitney on lock, right? Yeah, I was doing this. I had this kind of car. Meanwhile, Imam Amin's listening. He's from Atlantic City, right? And I'm getting this guy to tell all kind of lies, right? Because he think ain't nobody from Atlantic City there, right? And so get him open, everybody listening, right? So we get him all embellished in his lie. And then finally, Imam Amin will come out and be like, hey, yo, 5 cell, you say you from Atlantic City? What area? Right? So he's going to start naming stuff specific to Atlantic City that only people from Atlantic City would know. He's going to start stuttering. He's going to start mixing up time periods and dates because he wasn't really like that. He wasn't really in that life, right? And then when Imam Amin exposed him, we're going to have a good laugh out of that, right? Like, tell us the truth, man. You was a crackhead, right? You was a snowballer because we already know you was front, right? What was you do? You used to snatch old ladies' purses, man. What did you used to do, right? So we're going to get a good laugh at it. It breaks the monotony. You're witnessing the same thing happening in Islam. Imam Amin just described it. Azhar, right? Azhar, right? Standing on Azhar. Everything he's saying about Azhar is lying. He's lying, right? But he think he's talking to people who haven't been there, who don't know anything about it. So you can say anything and people will believe it. That's why I put in the comments and I said earlier, that one-eyed man is king in the land of the blind. He just believes everybody's blind. Ain't nobody gonna call my bluff. And sometimes some people get so deep in their lies that maybe they even start believing their own lies. So Imam Amin just reminded me of that. So you keep taking me back to the cell block. I don't want to go back to the cell block. You just keep taking me there, right? I just see it. I could draw a direct line to what we're seeing, the front end and the stunting that everybody's talking about in the comments. We seeing it happen. We seeing it manifest in the Islamic context. This is all Jahiliyyah. We seeing street stuff dunya stuff being played out in the Islamic community. This is the same thing. People name dropping and stuff. People that's really about it don't need to drop names. People that's really in the streets and really was about something in the street, they don't find it necessary to drop somebody else's name. They stand on who they are. But you find cats like, I was over here and I was with them and I studied and name dropping. So when we in the Muslim, in the Islamic context and all of that, but don't abandon your knowledge or your experience or your sense or your gut that you have from the street or whatever you was about, because the same thing is being played out. It's just being played out in the Islamic context. People are doing it with the deen. Same stuff they did in the street, they're doing it with the deen. So Imam Amin, this Imam Amin's fault. He took me there. Anyway, I said I was going to mention some steps that I recommend that you take. And I mentioned the first step about becoming awakened, and the second step of identifying a teacher and learning from them. And I forgot to mention that this teacher should know his Fard Ain. He doesn't need to be a scholar. Everybody think they need to learn directly from quote unquote scholar. That's not the case. And we're going to come back to that in another step. But the third step that I want to mention is that you learn from that teacher a basic book in creed and or fiqh and or spirituality, tasawwuf. Basic books. There are various curriculums or curricula, said properly, that all schools have, or madhabs. It's not just like one. There's several well-known books, countless other, what I like to call localized books, books that are on every level, written by scholars who may not be as well known or mainstream, but nevertheless cover the same material. And so we should all be able to say that I learned this basic book in creed. I learned this basic book in fiqh and spirituality. And in these books, and Imam Amin alluded to it, he mentioned a fiqh book, Murshid al-Mu'in, Ibn Ashir. A lot of times they put basic creed in those basic fiqh books. So another red flag that you would get from those jokers is that they will teach those books and skip over the Aqidah section. Skip right over it. Gotta watch these jokers. We got a fox in the hen house, because they have a problem with the Aqidah. So they're not going to teach it. They're going to skip over it. And step number 4, I'll say with that, is I recommend that you learn horizontally before vertically. A lot of times, for example, we want to learn one basic book, then jump right up to the next level, then the next level. And usually that's not good. And a lot of times it's not even good for smart people. What I mean by smart people, there are a lot of us who are autodidacts. They're autodidactic. They're able to learn a lot of things on their own that most people will need to be in an institution to get. But even those smart people, I've observed that they have a lot of holes in their knowledge, because some of them may not have even learned a basic book. They may have read basic books on their own and then got with a teacher, went right to the intermediate books. And all of those basic books, they're going to have some aspect of the basics that's not dealt with at all or not dealt with in details that the other basic book is going to deal with. Like, for example, in the Maliki school, if you start with the basic book Al-Akhdari, right, the author died before he finished the book. That's why it ends abruptly. There's no conclusion, complete and all. It doesn't say any of that. It just abruptly ends. And he mentioned fasting in the beginning. So there's no section on fasting. But the Ashmawiya covers fasting, which is another basic book in Maliki Fiqh. So that's one example why it's good to learn horizontally, meaning learn several books and on the basic level. Another example in the Maliki school is that the Akhdari, its section on Sujud Sahwi, the prostration of forgetfulness, is extremely extensive and detailed and gives a whole lot of different examples and scenarios. You're not going to find that even in higher level books. Like in the Maliki school, a little higher level of a book is the Izziya, right? The Izziya section on Sujud, the Sahwi, the prostration of forgetfulness, is not as extensive as the more basic book, Al-Akhdari. And so that's why it's important. Just as two obvious examples that anybody in the Maliki school would know, that I recommend that you learn horizontally. Don't be so quick to move up. Just, get a firm foundation. Think about it like building a house, right? You want to get the foundation right. So get your foundation right. And I'm talking to us. What we rushing for? We've been Wahhabis and default Wahhabis for decades. Why you want to rush now? Right? So at least get it right. At least get the basics right. So I gave you 4 steps that I'm recommending after becoming awakened and identifying a teacher and learning from that teacher basic books, not just lectures, not just what we call edutainment, books. Books. You notice a lot of times when we get someone on here who is giving us the history of movements or communities, you notice Imam Amin always asks them about the curriculum. And usually we can't get a straight answer because it wasn't stressed or only certain people did it or people were just working with what they had because it's history. We didn't always have the access we have now. But we don't have that excuse now. We should be able to say, okay, and from this teacher, I'm learning this book first, and then the next book, and then the next book, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And by the way, I'm just a basic dude. So if you learn it from me, you learn it all basic stuff. Alhamdulillah. So step number 3, learn from that teacher a basic book. And step number 4, learn horizontally. Meaning learn several books or even the same book over and over, maybe with a different teacher, maybe with a different commentary, but just the basic subjects. And then when your teacher says, all right, you got it, then move up a little bit. When your teacher says, not when you say. Alhamdulillah. So I'll pass it to Imam Faheem. So I covered 4 of the steps that I wanted to mention.
Okay, how we looking on that bread, man?
We won't know that till afterwards.
Okay.
The life has changed.
Okay. Well, for those who are present and they know they didn't give, make sure you donate, inshallah, to help us reach our goal of $500 that we try to reach every week, inshallah. Yeah, and so, alhamdulillah, yeah, we always be sparking each other, man. Imam Naeem was just talking about learning horizontally. You know what I was thinking about when we had them old TVs when you had to fix the horizontal lines. Remember that? And I think they used to have knobs where like you had to do it or something like that. And so, if your horizontal line ain't right, you got to adjust it, And so it's very important to not even be afraid to learn the basics, I think a lot of times, a lot of people don't want to admit that they don't know, because no one wants to feel like that they are unaware, or they may feel stupid that they don't know because they're not aware of certain things. But this is the beauty of Islam, that it starts you from the foundation very strong. It starts you from the foundation very strong, and learning these basic matters and mastering them. And so you have a good grasp of the foundation, so you know how to apply it in your lives. And this is why the Prophet ﷺ, he said that whoever Allah wishes good for, yufaqihu fi din, that he would make him understand the deen. And so this is very important to go back. Some of us had to go back. We had to reinvent. We had to relearn. We had to unlearn. We had to deprogram. We had to reprogram, and all of these things. Okay. Yeah. So somebody is posting something. I don't know what they're saying. Okay. You want to tackle that stuff down, Imam, or you want to wait until?
No. That person should go learn with Furqan. No, seriously, because you can't explain to someone who's not listening, right? And part of not listening is the inability to say, "I really don't know," and be quiet. I was talking to some people, and I said to them, one of the problems in our communities is people don't know how to say, "I don't know." And it's been made like shameful to say, "I don't." Sometimes you just don't know. So if you don't know, just sit down and let someone help you. Don't pretend you know. You don't know. Say, "I don't know." It's okay. It's not unlawful to say, I don't know, and I really don't understand. But also be open to learn and understand. Don't be obstinate in your rebellion against learning. So that's my answer to that one.
Yeah, and then it's not a chink in anyone's armor that that if you don't know something, that's why we have to learn, and really be humble enough, because a lot of times people just don't want to be humbled. Not that they don't want to be humble, they don't want to be humbled, and knowing that that they don't know, and have to come to terms that, man, like, who told us that we were supposed to know the stuff that nobody really taught us, and we thought that we were that big word that Imam Naeem mentioned, autodidactic. What is it? He said
autodidactic.
Yeah, autodidactic. Some of us, we think that we really, know how to read, and we know how to research, and man, a lot of us, subhanAllah, public school wasn't good to us, man. We don't even know how to take notes. We don't know deductive reasoning, and some of the younger people can't even write cursive, man. So, some of these things you have to come to terms with, and realize that you just got to really get on that horizontal line, and fix it and adjust, inshallah ta'ala.
Furqan, can you please get with nobody and sit down and have a talk so he can get some understanding, and what is additional to that? Let us help him, connect us together. But he's right in your city. Y'all learning. You should be able to reach him, sit him in the masjid, and explain to him these issues. All of us have been learning for years now. These basic things we should be able to explain. So I don't know if he reached out to you, but please connect, inshallah. Furqan is at Masjid Islam in DC. You can find him. Go to there on Jumu'ah and ask for Furqan. You can find him, and inshallah he'll help you. At least get started.
Yeah. And Furqan, when we coming back, man?
We're not. Right? All this Ash'ari stuff, it ain't happening. Right?
Why are we being prohibited?
When you get a little Rodney King in your spirit, then maybe you can come back. But all that strict stuff, forget about it. Not happening. Because this is a nice mixture we got going on here, and we don't need you upsetting the party. Right?
Well, he said they're setting it up now. Yes, sir, inshallah.
So let's take a few questions. We had some. If anyone has questions, comments, please put them up. What if somebody is Deobandi? A mix of Ash'ari, Maturidi, don't forget Wahhabi, that happens too. Come on, let's be fair here, right? Forget the name. Let's get out of necessarily concentrating on names, because names can be deceptive when you don't know what the name contains in terms of belief, practice, right? The real methodology. So when we want to ask, what is the belief of this person who says I'm Deobandi? Then we deal with it. What is the belief of this person who says he's Azhari? Right? So I think that's one of the things. And that's where we have our classes. So the round table is one level. We're just open conversation. Every morning and afternoons throughout the week, we do real classes where we're hadith and Quran and books. And so that is available. Thousands by now, lectures and classes with whole books covered. You actually have to learn. On the Black Imams Roundtable, it's not designed to actually teach you. It's designed to wake you up and make you aware. But the actual teaching is done on our regular platforms daily, in our gatherings in the different cities where we're teaching books. Because sometimes you'll come to the round table and you think this is what we do. Nah, this is just, in my old Ansar words, we come giving you what you want so you will want what we have to give. Bars. We come giving you what you want so you will want what you have, what we have to give. If I just claimed and gave a class teaching a book, we wouldn't have as many people. But if we mix it up, entertain, throw some stuff, people's ready. Until we develop an aptitude for learning among us, we must have some edutainment. It's essential or we'll just be lost. So don't think the round table is where the classes are at. The round table is to introduce you to where the classes are at. I hope that's clear. Would y'all agree with that? So the Deobandi, it depends. Some Deobandis have been infiltrated by Wahhabi thought. Some are Maturidi, straight. Maturidi and Ash'ari is the same. Don't think it's that difference. There's small secondary points that distinguish between the schools. So when you say Ash'ari and Maturidi, you're saying the same thing. I want to share something with you, though. Right? So I showed you that picture of that Azhari Sheikh who was supposed to be, right? I don't think we've ever said something like this. Look at his statement. And I'm going to translate it for the sake of time. Where is it at? In his explanation of the Creed of At-Tahawiyah, that scholar that was in that picture, he said, right? The Imams of the Muslims in Aqidah are three. وَأَئِمَّةُ الْمُسْلِمِينَ فِي الْعَقِيدَةِ ثَلَاثَةٌ. I'm here. It's all in Arabic, so I'm just translating it, right? But I'm going to put it up just to show you, right? He said the Imams of the Muslims in Aqidah are three. Al-Imam Abul Hasan al-Ash'ari and his followers, they are called al-Asha'ira. That's one. Wal Imam al-Maturidi and his followers, they are called al-Maturidiyya, right? The other is Imam Abu Ja'far al-Tahawi. They all lived the same time. He said, so the Muslim, it is not valid that he would be called a Muslim except that he is Ash'ari or Maturidi. That's what he said. And I'm going to post it, right? Have you ever heard us say something like that? And what he means by that is that you agree with their creed, right? That's understood. But he explicitly said this. Did he say authority? Did he say, any of that? He said, Ash'ari, Maturidi. Why when you was telling the people that, you didn't tell them that's what that sheikh say and what he believed? You see what I mean? And I'm saying in terms of the deceit, it's his words, right? Then in another statement, since the guy claims that we don't like Ibn Taymiyyah, right? He said, after talking about the position about Ibn Taymiyyah, he said, in conclusion, Ibn Taymiyyah is a scholar who made mistakes and was correct. His matter, we leave it to Allah. We do not follow his opinions that he made mistakes in them, nor do we encourage students to read his books. Let me repeat that. He said, we do not follow him in his opinions that he made mistakes in. And we do not encourage students to read his books, especially in Aqidah. Why you didn't tell the people that when you put his picture in books? Why you didn't tell them how he really feels? You see the deceit. And it's way more than what I just read. I just read a portion of his positions. That's something to think about. The deceit. And someone will say to us, don't say nothing. Can't we all just get along? No one will say to him, can't you stop fabricating facts, brother? Only the Ash'aris are those Ash'aris, they're too hard. Why don't you tell our brother to stop telling fabricated stories about the Ash'aris and the scholars of the time and twisting their words other than what they intended?
Hey, you know what you sound like? When I was young, like our parents and elders told us that, like when talking about when we was real young, like don't say the word lie. So we would be like, well, I mean, he fibbing. That's how you sound right now. You fibbing, right? No, he lying, man.
Yeah, I mean, because we do have this issue that we don't want the truth. Like, that's obvious, because now what does that look like when we're teaching one thing and someone is teaching the other thing, and that's a habit where people hide the truth from us, right? And if anyone understands Arabic, let me see. Okay, go ahead. And so you can hear it your own self. I'll share it with you, but you have to know Arabic. So that's the only problem for some of us. But I'll share it with you. Go ahead, yo. Are we there?
We was waiting on you.
You waiting on me?
Or you want to deal with some more questions?
I'm almost done. Hold on. I'm gonna put it in the chat. This is that scholar, and you can listen to his lecture, the whole thing. And when you listen to that lecture, that's the author's, that one with another picture, that's his explanation of the first paragraph in the Creed of Imam al-Tahawiyah. And listen to that lecture and see his position and compare it to what is being promoted about him. It's there's the lecture, and the other lecture I put in there. His position on Ibn Taymiyyah. Those are two lectures, and you can see for yourself. How does it match?
Like they used to say in those old movies, they jig is up.
Yeah. So listen to those two lectures. It'll take you roughly an hour and a half, 2 hours. And you get to see for yourself. Did we convey as it is, or is someone pulling your leg? Okay.
Fibbing, pulling your leg,
Fibbing, pulling your leg.
telling other than the truth. Just going to dance around that word lie.
Okay. All right, the next one. If you follow one madhab, say you're Shafi'i, is it okay to also take from an author or scholar from a madhab, like say he's Maliki or Hanbali? Imam Naim or Faheem, Imam Faheem, y'all want to take that?
The scholars say that is permissible, but you don't do it like within the same issue. Like if you're talking about the prayer, and from one aspect of the prayer, you take it from the Maliki school, but another aspect you take it from the Shafi'i school. It's the same issue, not in the same mas'ala, not in the same issue. And people do it all the time. But they definitely don't allow, or they to just think that you can just randomly, just for every single issue, just treat the madhahib, the schools, like a plate of food. Like, today, I'm going to be Maliki today in this one. And tomorrow, you know what? I like the Shafi over there. Let me get that, right? Not like that. Usually people do that when the position or positions in their own school is very hard to follow for their specific situation, and they take from another school in that specific situation for whatever reason. We're just trying to find the quote unquote the easiest position in each school for every issue. You know, most of the time they say you don't do that because you will end up nullifying that thing according to all schools. So you would stay away from that, just randomly doing it. But short answer, yes.
Furqan. Imam al-Tahawi didn't establish a school. However, his creed was similar to the creed of Imam al-Ash'ari and Imam Maturidi. So they represented the same creed, but he didn't have followers and a methodology by which generation after generation followed. So his creed is in the creed of the Ash'aris and Maturidis, as was mentioned by Tajuddin as-Subki.
I don't know. It just looked like a lot of questions just came up.
Yeah, this is a new sister.
Sunni Kareem asked earlier, just real quick, He says, Imam Amin, Naeem Abdullah, what do you mean? LOL. I think he typed that when we talked about what do that mean. I think he was talking about autodidactic. It's usually when a person is very good at self-teaching. Normally some people that's very good at self-teaching. And I said that because there are a lot of people, a lot of them are known and some unknown, who have self-taught themselves pretty well. But a lot of times what I was warning about, that even some of them, that they make big errors in certain isolated areas because they haven't learned from a teacher, and the teacher didn't verify or straighten out what that person understood. I know for myself, when I'm asking a teacher something, usually I have some sort of understanding or misunderstanding, and I usually state what I think it is so that I can be corrected. But that's why it's important to ask a human being, because if it's just you in a book, there's no one there to check or verify you, inshallah.
So let me answer this question, because it's Sister Aziza. When we're talking about madhabs, understand that sciences are different. So the field of the creed, al-aqidah, is different from the field of fiqh. So when you study creed, you're going to study the creed according to the Ash'ari school or the Maturidi school. And when you study fiqh, which is the rules of the religion, you're going to study either from the Hanafi, Maliki, Shafi, and Hanbali school. Likewise, when you go into spirituality, you're going to study books. So a madhab in fiqh is not necessarily the madhab in creed. What is normal is that, say, for instance, the Shafi'i usually is going to be Ash'ari in creed. That doesn't mean that every single Shafi'i follows the Ash'ari creed. Some of them, in some positions, follow the Maturidi creed, like my own teachers. So in some issues, the majority issues, they follow the Ash'ari position. But in some particular issues, they followed and agreed with the Maturidi way of explaining. So, but they are Ash'ari or Maturidi, no matter how you cut it. So when you study in books, you're studying books of fiqh as a separate science, books of aqidah as a separate science. You follow? According to one of those schools. And Allah knows best.
Can I add something too for the sister? Yeah. So Sister Aziza, think of each madhab as being like an Ivy League school, right? Each madhab is like Yale, Harvard, Princeton, and Columbia, right? And imagine yourself being accepted into one of those universities. So you follow a madhab. And when you go to that school, you don't go to that school every day and something that you don't like, then okay, I'm accepted to Harvard. I'm in the Harvard madhab. I'm going to go over see what they're doing over Yale. I'm going to go see what they're doing at Columbia. I'm going to see what they're doing at Princeton. You wouldn't do that. You would go to your school where the curriculum is, you know. You would stay in that school. So that's something you should really, you know, and all of us really follow your madhab and get good training in your madhab. That doesn't mean that you can't take from other madhabs, but as lay people, we should really just concentrate on following, you know. And sometimes, you know, with the, you know, the influx of all of this stuff, and, you know, people ask for dalil and the evidence and following this and following the hadith and following Quran and Sunnah, it's been a big mix up. We need to train ourselves to follow the school and follow the school correctly and understand it correctly. And but that doesn't mean we shouldn't know what other schools say, you know. But usually that's for a higher level that we just need to concentrate on knowing what we're supposed to know as an obligation, and Allah knows best.
We got a couple more questions. This is Imam Amin. Are these the Madkhalis, a new aggressive Salafi group? If not, what is this group Madkhali al-Muziz Haq about? Oh, okay. The Madkhalis are Wahhabis, Salafis. They're just the followers of a specific Saudi sheikh named Rabi' al-Madkhali, right? Who was a graduate and ended up being a professor in the University of Al-Madinah, who was followers of a student of those same Saudi scholars, Ibn Uthaymeen, Bin Baz, and in Hadith, Al-Albani, and those same senior scholars of Saudi, they're their students. Some of them became more famous than others, and people started following them. But there's a bunch of them. Like, there are all these graduates, the famous one of them get their own following. So they have certain characteristics. But ultimately, all of them are students of Bin Baz, Ibn Uthaymeen, Al-Albani. Even the other famous ones, they come from that Saudi understanding, hierarchy. So they would all go back to Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab. They're all the same people. When they come to us, they fighting each other for superiority. But for us, there's all the same people, right? If you study the books, they're explaining the books of Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab. They're the same people. They just have their individual methodologies where they cancel each other out. But in reality, they're all Wahhabis. So, right? And here's the thing. I'm not hardcore because I don't follow Sheikh Rabi'. Now I follow this other Wahhabi Sheikh who's much more moderate. It's all same Wahhabis. They're all the same, except in certain points. But the overall position is the same, if you understand what I mean. And the quickest way to deceive us is coming with the same thing in different clothes. And we don't realize you just changed clothes. You're the same person, right? Not me. You see, I got on a new suit. No, not me. I got on a different suit. Y'all the same people. Subhanallah. And the last question before we bring a wrap. But how do you know what creed the scholars are from? Is it in the open? No, you just got to learn about scholars, their biography, from whom they learned, their chains of narration, and you learn that with a living teacher. So Islam is not a do-it-yourself religion. You actually need a living teacher. And I'll go to Imam Naim, what he says. Well, where can I learn a teacher? You're talking to one, right? Oh, that's right, you black. I don't want to learn from you. You got a teacher right in front of you, teaching you every day. Just learn what they're teaching and you'll understand. Inshallah.
If you don't mind, I got 2 more steps.
Go ahead, go for it.
Step number 5. When your teacher affirms that you understand an issue, not a whole subject, just one issue, one thing, one small thing, teach it to your family, friends, those closest to you, and work out from there. In other words, you're learning not only for yourself, but you're learning for those around you. The Prophet ﷺ said, "Ballighu anni walau ayya." Relate for me or teach for me, even if it's one verse. The Shaykh who said, Sheikh Uthman Danfodio, he said, وَكُلُّ مَنْ تَعَلَّمَ مَسْأَلَةً وَاحِدَةً فَهُوَ مِنْ أَهْلِ الْعِلْمِ بِهَا فَعَلَيْهِ أَنْ يُعَرِّفَهَا إِنْ كَانَتْ مِنْ فُرُودِ الْأَعْيَانِ وَإِلَّا كَانَ شَرِيكًا لَهُ فِي إِثْمِ. Whoever has learned a single issue is one of the learned ones in it. A single issue. Thus, it is obligatory upon him to teach it to others, especially if it's one of the individual obligations. Otherwise, he will have a share in the sin. So, in other words, all of us are involved in the teaching and learning process at the same time. We're all learning. We should all be learning and teaching at the same time. For example, if a person comes into the masjid and he doesn't know how to make wudu, learning how to purify yourself for prayer is one of the individual obligations. So you shouldn't need to say, hold up, I don't know how to do that. Let me go to the Imam. No, you should be one of the learned ones in it. You pray every day, so you have to make wudu. You're supposed to know how to make that, right? So you should be able to teach him or her how to purify themselves. And when we use the phrase Fard Ain, individual obligation, you may say, well, what are the individual obligations? I'll make it very simple for you. If it is obligatory for you to do it, it is likewise obligatory for you to learn how to do it properly. That is the individual obligation. We know that it's obligatory for us to pray. So it is obligatory for us to learn how to pray properly. And all of the prerequisites to the prayer, the shurut of salat, the conditions of the salat. That means you have to learn about the conditions of water and what's pure, what's not pure, the direction of the prayer, removing impurities from your place of prayer, your body, and your clothing, etc. The times of prayer, that's a big one, the times of prayer. Fasting is an obligation. You have to learn how to fast properly. There's certain things that as a Muslim, not as a Muslim trying to be a scholar, just a Muslim, you should know how to do. And you should have knowledge of how to do it properly. That's the only thing we're saying. But some people are saying that those things are advanced things, and we shouldn't have to, and we shouldn't be involved into that. Likewise, there are individual obligations with regards to our belief. If you're a Muslim, there are certain primary beliefs that all Muslims should be firm in. And for someone to say, well, a Muslim doesn't need to know that Allah is not like his creation. Like what? They're saying that Allah has this character, he shares this characteristic with the creation. Oh, see, that's the detail. That's that advanced stuff, brother. It's not advanced, it's basic. It's built into the Shahada itself. And likewise, spirituality. Imam Amin mentioned it earlier. There are certain things that we have to purify our heart from. Tahliya, the emptying out, the cleaning out, like purifying the heart from jealousy, conceit, arrogance, love of the dunya. There's a whole endless list of blameworthy character traits of the heart. We have to know what they are and how to get rid of it. And likewise, we have to adorn our heart, decorate our heart, tahliya. We have to adorn our hearts with praiseworthy characteristics, like tafweed, like relying on Allah, rida, being content with Allah, having sabr, patience. All of these things are states of the heart that we have to embody, that we have to adorn our heart with. And that's the basics of tasawwuf. That's the basics of Sufism. We be wanting some all other stuff. We be wanting to go vertically into tasawwuf too, not just fiqh. We don't even want to learn the basic book of fiqh. We want to just go straight up, right? We want to do the same thing at tasawwuf, right? We want it like I want to join 10 tariqas, but you don't know anything about ujub, kibra, Huba Dunya, none of that stuff. But you all into the tariqas and 10,000 awrad and everything, and you don't know how to purify your heart from conceit. just going straight vertically, not dealing with the basics horizontally. So I just want to emphasize step number 5, that you begin to teach those around you. In the same way, if something funny, some meme or something on Facebook, you share it. When your knowledge elevates, you share that too. When you learn how to do something proper, share that. Step number 6, it goes back to our code 3453, specifically the last 3: ilm, amal, and dawah, knowledge, practice, and calling or dawah, the invitation. And I'm emphasizing all 3, not just one, not just the knowledge part, but that we ourselves act on it. And number 3, we call others to act on it. We have to change our environments. And what do you mean by environments? I mean yourself as an individual, the house in which you live. I be noticing stuff. I be paying attention to stuff that I don't think a lot of people pay attention to. But a lot of times when we doing wrong stuff, or we call everybody to it. We invite everybody. We try to get everybody down. Like if you was out there doing illegal stuff, you wanted to put everybody down, and everybody wanted to get down. When you know how to get some legitimate money, you don't want to put nobody down. You don't want to tell nobody anything. It seems like a lot of times we do the same thing with the deen. We be on misguidance for X amount of years. We calling everybody to it. We sharing the videos all the time of those people who were on the misguidance like we was. But then we realized that we were misguided, and Allah opened our heart to the truth. We get real stingy with it. We don't share anything. We don't teach anything, or none of that stuff. We have to stop being like that. And I think a lot of us are like that because we're strangers. We're from the Ghuraba. And because we're strangers, not many people like us, we are afraid of what other people are going to say. That's just my opinion. And so we kind of quiet, we kind of shy. But when we was doing the wrong thing with everybody else, we was very loud and animated. But we get real quiet and timid and meek when we get the truth, because there's only a few of us around. And we need more people to be a little bit more braver than that. And so if you are a part of a community or a part of the masjid, you should begin to share what you learn. And maybe that masjid is hostile, or you fear that more fitna will come about the more you push the issue. So maybe you should move to another community that's more understanding. And in some cases, you might have to start your own. Have to do it anyway, because most of our communities are being extinct anyway. So that's my advice. Step number 6, change your environment. This is not only for you as an individual. You have or are going to have children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren who need to live in an environment that we all are creating for them. And you can't do that only online. You have to actually get offline. You have to log off and do some real work. So you have to change your real environment, your house, your masjid, or whatever. You have to change it. Ilm, amal, and dawah. So I got what I needed to get off. Alhamdulillah.
Imam Faheem, you have something quickly or no?
I ain't got nothing, man.
All right. I want to say something seriously. And I was thinking about this. I want your opinion. I had a discussion about Arabic and learning. So I have this thing. We've got into form over reality. And I think it has hurt us from our understanding. So this concentration of what we need to know. There is this basic amount of knowledge you need to know. It doesn't require you to be fluent in Arabic to learn that, right? The very basics we're talking about. The correct belief in Allah and His messengers and the unseen matters, how to basically pray, fast, buy, sell, marriage. You don't need to be a scholar to learn that. Everyone who engages in that needs to know it. And what I think has become a veil to many of us, my thoughts, that because they don't know Arabic and they're not. See, now this is, I want to share something. I want to highlight you, Garrett. You're a coward. And I don't say that to put you down. That's coward behavior. Right now, you have the opportunity to actually address your stuff. Well, you from Brooklyn, I think, or is he from the suburbs and act like he's from Brooklyn? Where the guy from?
Schenectady.
No, I'm serious. Not in a way. I accept. I'm a theological prostitute. Okay, fine. Could you prove that to me? Stop talking about me and talk to me. In fact, I know people may not want. They may leave. I ain't one of those dudes. I'm a real man. Sometimes I question you, I'll be honest, right? Here's the link. We can have this discussion right now. And I'll let you talk, even if you're disrespectful. Because I know and you know you don't know anything. But I'll give you an opportunity to express yourself. There's the link right there. I'll put it up again for you only. We can have a discussion right now. Stop being a coward. Be a man. Face men. What's wrong with that? I'm not angry with you. I understand cowards. I'm from the projects. I know cowards when I see them. I would like you to develop some manhood. And I don't mean physical, so it's not a threat. I mean, just be a man. A man can stay in his position, stand on it, and do it. Be a man. I'm right here. Be a man. Everyone hears you now. Some people ain't good readers. Why don't you talk? Right? Because I can't read you, honestly. I don't read your stuff because I can't. I have no idea what you're talking about. Maybe that good way of writing, I don't know where you got it from. I don't understand it. So you're never going to get me because I don't understand what you're talking about. So what I will give you is the opportunity to express it. I won't cut you off. You can talk as reckless as you want. I'm from the projects. I'm going to show you that I don't get upset. I'm just going to clarify your points of misguidance. Where you at? Since you can call us names and say we prostitutes and we have Arab pimps and whatever. And you're writing, but I want y'all to say why I'm answering. Because there's actually young people who think he's knowledgeable. A lot. There's actually young African Americans who listen to this guy. Right? And they actually think, we've heard it. Gareth, he's a scholar. He's an up-and-coming scholar. And what planet? Right? So, Garrett, with all due respect, show yourself, Sheikh, Maulana, Mufti, prolific writer. Show your face. You're right here. You can have a real discussion. It don't got to be fitna. It don't got to be an argument. It don't got to be a debate. You claim to be intellectual. Let's do it. But you and your Latino Azhari buddy are both cowards. To be honest, that's how we look at you from where we come from. Cowards. Be a man. Face up. It don't have to be, like I said, don't change it to it's a violent, there's no threat. We're talking about an intellectual, academic discussion. Where you at? There's the link. Now you'll go write another paper that no one understands instead of actually dealing with the issue. And I'm highlighting you because you notice I never blocked you, right? I'm not like y'all. I ain't gonna block you for what? I want you to hear me. I want you to learn. And hopefully one day, I hope you get enough courage that you actually come have a real discussion. right? That's when I pray for you. Because I understand you got confusion going on. I met you. They don't know. I already refuted you. I know why you don't want to have a discussion with me, because it's awfully quite embarrassing when all that stuff you talk gets shredded in a couple minutes. You already experienced that. But I'm not here to embarrass you. I actually want to teach you, young brother. I actually would like you to learn. I believe if you sat down and learned and humble yourself, you could be influential. You could be scholarly. And we need it in our community. But this coward stuff you doing, this childish name calling, come on, bro. You'll never be learning like that. Be a man. For us as black men, that's more important than all that talk. All the refuting, to be men. It's going to be boys that count on us. We can't be like that. If we're really on the ground in our community, you can't be a coward. Not in our community. Not what we're faced with. You got to be a man of integrity and respect. So I challenge you to come on. You can go get the Latino Azhari together. Both of y'all can come together. Together, since y'all, you promoting them, come together. I think both of y'all tied together should make something to have a discussion together. And I know there are some people who's going to say, "Oh man, why are y'all so hard on him?" Well, why he talking? Go tell him to be quiet. Stay in a child's place, right? And I'm saying that to you because I give you the opportunity. And don't make it other than what it is. We actually can have a real conversation. But everyone knows, Garrett, you got your minutes of fame. You're a coward. Everyone knows you're a coward. You don't really want to have a conversation. You just want somebody to read your incomprehensible writings. I don't got time for that. But I do got time for a real discussion whenever you want it. All right, I'm going to let you go. And I ain't going to block you. So go ahead, put all your crazy, incomprehensible articles, call all the names you want. It's fine. But whenever you're ready to be a man and have a real conversation and really discuss the issues and all that anthropomorphic stuff that you don't understand, that you don't read because you don't know Arabic, you don't know English, you're really troubled. But no problem. You're always welcome. And I know I'm going to get the bully joint. Oh, why you so hard on the brother? Why you do that? Why you embarrass him? He's embarrassing himself. Look what he said. Go tell him that. Don't tell me. He's embarrassing himself. And when he has the opportunity to clarify himself, he never does it. They just post, write, talk. And when it's time to really deal with the issue, nothing.
Imam Amin, Imam Faheem.
And Garrett, be careful how you talk to sisters, because some brothers don't like that, and you be disrespecting people's wives, and you're going to make things go where they shouldn't go. So you be reckless. We know you ain't cut like that. So really, talk to men. Don't even talk to no woman. A woman talk to you, Garrett, say, I don't talk to women. Send me your man. Send me your husband, right? Don't talk to no women, Garrett. Don't inbox no women. Say, I don't talk to women. I want to talk to men. But really, because you know a man might handle you. So that's why you hide behind that keyboard. So stop. Be a good Muslim. Since you want to be intellectual, have intellectual talks. And I'm only giving you this much time so people see that you're a coward, a waste of time, but hopefully you'll listen. Hopefully one day you'll get a change of heart. I said it. I'm standing on it. And you're always welcome for a real discussion. All right, I'm going to let you go. Now you go back to your keyboard warrior stuff.
My question I wanted to ask real briefly, I don't be understanding how people can say, oh, you're a bully, or you kind of too hard on them, the way you talk to them, but they don't ever, they act like they can't see this type of stuff. That's a question for you and Imam Faheem. Maybe it's something I'm missing. Why are people like that? That stuff gets under my skin.
Because actually, I told y'all, you ever saw the Muhammad Ali movie, The Greatest?
Uh-huh.
When Muhammad Ali played himself? There are people waiting for Ken Norton to knock you out, Imam Naeem. They only here to hopefully one day somebody knock you flat on your butt. And then they'll be happy and they'll be satisfied. They're acting like they're here to see you win. They really want to see somebody knock you out. That's my answer to that.
Oh, so they're frenemies.
If Gareth Bryant or the Latino Azhari could come on this platform and actually refute us, they would love it. But they know, as well as we know, what's going to happen if they have a real discussion. They're going to be not embarrassed for them. The issue is going to be exposed. The issue of anthropomorphism, likening Allah to his creation, having a bad aqidah, is going to be clarified. They understand that, right? So they just don't want to have discussion. And it ain't against us, because all of us, listen, every single one of us are narrating from others. All of us, right? Every single one of us are narrating from, none of us is in ourselves, I hope, making anything up. So all it is a matter of clarification. Now, we've made it that, it's about me, I'm somebody. None of us are nobody. We're all learning, we're all discovering. It's a matter of just being sincere, right? So if Gareth is making mistakes, he can get those mistakes corrected. He just don't want to, right? If I'm making mistakes, I can get those mistakes corrected. Do I want to? That's the question. And the only way you're going to do that is by real dialogue. All the name calling. And when I say coward, I'm not really talking about him. I'm talking about that behavior, right? I don't have nothing personal against him. If I saw him, I wouldn't get mad at him. I understand where he's at. I met him before. But as a black man, that don't fit. We got to fix that, right? And that's probably be because sisters don't get mad at me. He reminds me of somebody who was raised by a woman without a man around, seriously, and was babied. And that's the behavior. Not every case, but that's what he reminds me of. Somebody was saying, this my baby, this my baby, this my baby. So he started acting like a baby as a grown man. Now, I would hope that that's not the case, but I guarantee you, if you look in this situation, you'll see that's the reality. He wasn't raised around no man. No man would tolerate you acting like that. That's true. And that may be hurtful a little bit, but that don't got to do with Islam. That's a cultural thing we got to deal with. Boys not being raised by men, so they know how to be men. Even when they get grown with a beard, they act like little kids. That's a serious problem. That's not about religion necessarily. It's a cultural thing that's been forced on our people. Dude don't even know how to be a man. He can't even stand in the face of other men and stand on some principles. That's a problem that we need to do in mentoring. So it's not about knowledge. Really, you need to be mentored. And I know it's hard. I know and some people say, oh, brother, you don't live in our context. This is the traces of what has happened to our communities, that you got a grown man who can't face other men. He's a man. He can't look another man in the eyes and have a real conversation. That's some serious stuff. Think about it. Forget just the religious issue. You have a grown man who can't face other men. How is he going to lead a community? We are imams. How are you going to lead a community and you a coward? Right or wrong? I mean, let's be honest. You got to face real stuff as a leader. We go in our communities where there's jokers who are really need manhood, really need mentoring. And this guy's keyboard warrior. You think he gonna run a community? That's why a lot of their communities get taken over by foreigners, because it's men like him, males, little boys, talking junk but can't be men. It's serious stuff. Like, that's really, really, really the real issue that we need to be talking about. In addition to knowledge, we got a crisis of manhood in the Black community, and that's a living example of it. Because you could just say, listen, I'm a man, I'm gonna come on and we're gonna have a real discussion, because I believe you're misguiding people. And as a man, you're misguiding, we're gonna discuss the misguidance. And even if it makes me angry, I'm gonna still deal with it. The issue, we're gonna talk about the issue. We're gonna discuss it. We're gonna give our evidences. We're gonna respond, because we men. And this is something that's affecting our community. That's a man. But we got guys who are not even men. So you go to the masjid and you see immigrants take over the masjid, and he right there, because they don't respect them as men. You right there. And you can't be a transfer of Black leadership because you ain't a man. You can't handle it. That's some deep things. I want you to think about that. So really, it ain't an attack. It's really mad love that I tell you, listen, man up. Stop being a little boy. Man up. Because in reality, we got to count on each other. And we can't count on nobody who can't hold their weight. We can't count on nobody who's soft as cotton and can't even have a real discussion. Imagine if it get ugly and you at the helm. That's a problem, right? Forget just talking about the knowledge. That's one thing. But serious, this issue of manhood is serious. And we'll say, no, you got to be a man. I know in my mom, really, my mom would never let me be like that. Get your butt out there and go get beat up. That's how I was raised. Get your butt out there and go get beat up. Don't come back in here with that stuff. Get up out of here. I'm not raising no punk. And y'all know that kind of neighborhood. I'm not raising no punk. Get out. Go handle yourself. And so when I'm talking about, and to be honest, for the person who can't handle this conversation, who think it's overboard, you're not the person I want in my community either. Because we got to raise men. It's a crisis in the Black masjid because they're lacking men. They're people who actually, all we see them as servants to others. No Black men. This is a problem.
This is the same issue in that other situation too with the Latino Azhari. He make a video about you, call you out by name, but block you, and got your phone number in his phone, won't talk to you, but will talk about you. And people know who it is because, you know, we addressing it directly, but he been taking a whole bunch of shots before that. We just ignored it. People done sent me screenshots. Yo, he talking about y'all? Hey, most likely probably is, right? We just ignored it.
Yeah. But my thing is, forget the shots. Because I could have took that person. I don't care about that.
That's the point.
A young brother who,
I'm talking about like the manhood issue.
Yeah, that's
because
me.
Just like with Garth, he'll talk about you on your platform, but won't talk to you. Like this during this time period that we live in, having a direct conversation is to some people is seen as aggression, right? But it's not aggression to talk about somebody negatively in their presence or in their absence or all that stuff. That's not aggression. But going directly to the person with your issue, all of a sudden that's aggression. They redefine things. And this is the time period that we live in. These guys think it's all right to do what they're doing, but they don't want to have a face-to-face conversation, man-to-man conversation with the person that they're talking about. That's the behavior you're talking about.
Can I share something with you? You know these same type of people, when you see them in the immigrant masjids among Caucasian leadership, they're the most passive, docile people you'll ever meet. I know because I'm around them. I see them. But when they come amongst their own, they're the most rude, disrespectful, hiding away from the reality. But if you see them around the others, head down, kissing hands, docile, because there's a sense of inferiority. But I'm going to oppose my own. This is stuff I see. So when I'm talking about it, it's not about Gareth. It's not about him. He's just the example of a characteristic that we need to overcome as a people. It's not about him. So don't make it about him. It's not. Really, when we see that, we should have a disdain for that type of behavior among men in our community. No, that's what you're saying about him? You go take that to him. Right? You can't do that. Nah, we're not doing that. Right? And because we got to think generational. We got to think, how is this going to transfer generational? It's going to take men. And I don't want to go over on it, but we need men. We need men. And if that's our example, we got to get it fixed. And that's all I'm saying. So my thing is, more than being mad at him, I'm concerned that many of our young Black youth will actually think that's the way of manhood or scholarship because of the lack of examples. And I'm more concerned about that our people are thinking that's our Islam, and the world will laugh at that. Real people will laugh at that. But that reflects us as a people, right? Think about that. That's they're gonna laugh at that. But that represents us. So that's why they come in our masjid and they say, I'm the Imam. I'm leading the prayer. Because this is your sheikh. This is your example of get down, sit down. It's deep. I'm sorry for going long. But so you don't got to talk about me, Gareth. I'm ready anytime you're ready. Any day, anytime, any place.
You know, Imam, while you was talking, I was thinking about one of your friends, our good Wahhabi brother, self-described Salafi brother. Back in the day when he was hot before he got kicked off the Minhaj, I've heard and seen him talk bad about Ahlul Sunnah and say stuff about him. But at the same time, I also seen him sit across the table from them same people he spoke about and said those same things to that person's face in a respectful conversation.
Say that again. I'm sorry. Say that again. I didn't hear you clearly.
One of our brothers, who's Wahhabi, back in the day, I've seen him talk against Ahlul Sunnah individuals.
Right.
And I seen the same Imam sit across the table from them same individuals he talked about and say the same things to their face.
Right.
He's a man.
Well, you know one of them, and you see me and him kick it. I don't agree with his stuff. I respect him as a man, though.
That's what I'm talking about.
And
I've seen it and with my own eyes.
To the extent that I invite him to sit on the table with us because I respect his manhood. We go at it. I disagree with his whole stuff, but I respect his black manhood. I respect that. And I like it. Right? And the proof of it, for almost 30 years or more, he's been holding down black leadership. We might not agree with his ideas, but he's been holding that down in the face of all that stuff. You got to respect that. You have to respect it. Okay, we went overboard. Imam Faheem is tired of all this stuff. He's like, why y'all let this guy know? So now everyone knows. Y'all heard him. He had his opportunity. He fled again, which is what he does. So he's still welcome to listen, and he's welcome to write. I won't block him. I won't entertain him every time, but I won't block him because he's listening. And maybe one day something's going to hit him and change him.
Exactly.
That's what I hope. And at the end of the day, we'll love you after that.
Something's going to hit him and change him.
I am free from those insinuations, my brother.
I
have absolutely nothing to do with it. I know he's going straight to the captain's office soon as he get it, and I'm not involved with that. I have nothing to do with it. I refute such sayings.
I took sole responsibility. Hit him and change something.
But he needs a hug, not a punch.
Yeah.
He needs a hug. A real hug that says, listen, man, I understand. I love you.
One before the other.
You were done wrong, and I'm here to help you out, bro.
Yeah.
It ain't personal. And I'm talking to you like a big brother who really love you and want the best for you.
You know big brothers do, because your big brother did it to you.
Punch him in the chest?
Yes.
Everybody can take a punch to the chest.
Yeah. Kill your bird chest is one time.
All right, alhamdulillah. All right, we went way over time. Thank you for extending us, Garrett. You gave us some extra time. And let me mess with Abdul Ali since I'm on a roll. Abdul Ali, all that gangster stuff you talking, I need you to take that to Gareth and get him together. He's not representing New York well. So you need to take that stuff you told me how you used to be. You need to take that to him and tell him represent New York, Joker. Because you're giving New York a bad rap on these internet streets. Right?
In New York City, because he talking like he from Schenectady.
No, it's all good, Sister Aziza. We gotta, this is our people. If you're in this leadership stuff, you will have to entertain our people, because he's one of hundreds of people like them with the same issue. So sometimes you gotta engage your people where they at, right? And because the others just gonna ignore him, put him off, and let him go astray. We can't do that. They are people. We gotta engage. We gotta give some room. Ain't no one gonna do it if we don't. Just be a lost cause. So we gotta take a little bit. Okay, who's gonna close us out while we go to the store? And listen, I apologize if what I said came off of offensive. I don't mean it offensive. But in the context that we all understand from the inner city, certain things just don't fly. So even if it sounds offensive, because you're not in our context, so you call him a coward, you don't understand our context. So that might be offensive to you. It's offensive to us in our context that someone behaves like that. So when we say that, it's in a context, right? And that don't represent all of us as a people. Actually, we are dignified people. Actually, we do have men. Even if he don't look like one of them, but we do have men who are serious about their business, right? So understand what I'm saying. And I'm hoping one day he muscles up the courage to come on and say all that stuff in coherent English or Arabic if he's so great, at least so we can understand. But not to embarrass him, to actually teach him. Not to embarrass him. That's not the intent. Never. Okay, go ahead. I'm finished.
Nah, Miriam, Schenectady is part of upstate New York. It's not part of Long Island.
Whatever, Schenectady, Amityville, White Plains.
It's like all up in that Albany type area.
And you know, y'all do realize every time I come on here with y'all, I run the risk of being canceled. Y'all know that, right?
Yep.
Because I'm in a different crowd and they don't really necessarily agree with this black stuff, right? So you guys, man, y'all gonna have to up my salary, right?
Welcome home, Roscoe Jenkins.
Really, this don't fly.
Now, who's saying Amityville? That's Long Island. Making me homesick.
All right, who's going to close out? I went to the store coming.
Okay, alhamdulillah. We thank you all for, riding out with us over the time. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive us, to overlook our shortcomings and our misdeeds, to make this a gathering of knowledge and benefit, and for us to put it in action and to actualize it. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to send us his aid, and by the rank of his prophet, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, send us blessings in this blessed month of Ramadan. Rabbana taqabbal minna innaka anta samiul alim. Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdika wa nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta wa nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Al-Fatiha.
Fatiha. Tomorrow morning, real class, inshallah ta'ala, between 7 and 8. No entertainment, actually learning. Barakallahu bikum.
Hey, I got a trick for Gareth, man.
Oh boy, great. Now we gotta do it all over. Go ahead.
No, I'm on my own with it. I'm not implicating none of y'all.
You see, Diddy just getting a conspiracy. They changed this stuff into conspiracy real quick.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, you got a RICO Act. I cannot afford to go back to prison, brother.
No, so ain't nobody going to prison.
Clear that this is my own individual initiative. He is free of that. I cannot afford to go back to prison.
Ain't none of that. It's just going to be an expose. It ain't going to be no contact involved.
Alphabet Boys, I am clear of his stuff. I have nothing to do with it. Don't want nothing to do with it. Encourage him not to do it.
Because he only got one eye, so he ain't going to see me coming anyway. All right, let me stop, man.
I have a wife. I have a family. I don't want no trouble. I know I'm not like him. I know what Florence, Colorado looked like inside and out. I don't want to go back.
Right.
I know what Lewisburg looks like. I'm not like him. Right? You know they say they not like us. I know what that looks like. I experienced it in real time. It's not cap. I'm not that guy Imam Naeem was talking about in the cell. I don't want to go back. So Garrett, rest assured, I wish you no harm, my brother. Right? So don't put me in that one. And it's on record. It's recorded. Amin Muhammad wants no parts in none of that. Not me. I am not interested. All right. May Allah reward y'all. We just having fun. We can't help ourselves. You got to laugh from crying. It gets painful after a while. Oh, my goodness. All right. Fatiha. Assalamu alaikum.